Hi, we want to introduce you today with another Style Cartel Style Sessions. Actually, we're going to bring you some culture because we are at the A Shaded View of Fashion, 5th edition of the Fashion Film Festival here at Georges Pompidou in Paris. It was great. We're about to go interview the directrice of the film festival, Diane Pernet, and we're going to get up close and personal, and then we're going to end with our favorite film, which is going to be Where the Girls Are. Now let's go have a talk with Diane. See you in a bit.
It was really difficult to leave New York because I was a fashion designer. I had my own brand for 13 years, Diane Pernet. And I lived in the West Village, which is now the Marc Jacobs Empire. You know, and what is the cupcake?
Wasn't that clean back then?
No, it always was clean. It's the West Village, not the East.
Okay.
The East was much different. But what happened, like in the 80s, starting in like 87, when the AIDS epidemic just wiped out my entire neighborhood. Not only that, there was like 80% or more people dead or dying in my neighborhood. Then they let out all the people from the mental hospital, and they're all living on the street with no provision whatsoever. And first you have compassion, but then after a while, when they're taking a crap in front of you, your door at 12 in the afternoon, and scratching and all this stuff. As a fashion designer, it was not terribly inspiring, and plus there was so much crime. It was really violent. And I just decided I was designing my collection, then disappearing for 3 weeks when I should have actually been staying in New York in the showroom, selling it. And then planning my next collection and doing the collection and then going away, and I'm leaving to leave. I just should leave. But it's not easy to leave. And New York was my life, and fashion was my life. So it took about 4 years before I actually left. I had no plan, no strategy. I was like, if I want to stay in fashion, it's going to be London, Paris, Milan. London's not so exotic for an Anglo-Saxon. It's different, but...
It's the only quirk, I think, is you speak the language.
Yeah.
I did 2 years there, and I came back to Paris.
Yeah. I think there's more opportunity there, though. And they have a sense of humor, which is great. But I feel comfortable in Paris, even though I'll always be a foreigner. You know, we could live here 50 years and we'd still be foreigners. Except if you're Karl Lagerfeld and you're suddenly French, or Yves Saint Laurent and you become French. But,
well, I'm French.
Well, you are, so you've already had it.
But I'm still a foreigner. Like, I'm still, like, you're the American girl here. You know, like, it's like you said, we're a nice handbag at a party, kind of. We're a nice accessory because...
Initially, anyway.
You know? So I want to know, do you remember the day you woke up and you chose fashion?
Yeah, well, I was a little girl when I wanted to be a fashion designer. But I took some art classes, and I'm not really great at drawing. It's very spontaneous. That's what the teacher used to say. Very spontaneous. So I took that as wasn't something great. But actually, that's part of my personality, be spontaneous and organic about things. But I used to really be concerned about my clothes. And I had some terrible taste when I was little. Like, I liked all this frilly stuff, you know, pink and ruffles and girly kind of things. And to the horror, probably, of my mother, who also liked to dress me in bright colors. Is probably one reason I like black. I was forced into yellow and orange. And then I thought, because I didn't draw that well, that I couldn't be a designer, and that's really not true, because do you have an idea? You can always find an illustrator or technicians, but the person that actually creates something, that's... I used to design by draping, taking the fabric actually on a real model, and that's how I designed. And then you could draw it afterwards, or then I could draw, but it's really done.
So who was your inspiration back then?
In the very beginning, like the designer that impressed me the most and who I still think is a total genius, is Charles James.
Okay, and why?
Because he was a real sculptor, he was an artist, he was an original, and he died penniless in the Chelsea Hotel, and Halston used to be his assistant.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody knows Halston, nobody knows Charles James. Mm-hmm. Look him up if you don't know him. And you know who I was really happy to see who really likes him? Two people that I really respect. One is Andre Walker, because he does that magazine with that unpronounceable name, and he did a whole thing on Charles James. And Rick Owens, who I love, who did a jacket a couple years ago as an homage to Charles James.
Okay. Let's talk about the film festival. Is it 5 years now? It's
5 years as Asphalt, and it was 2 years as You Wear It Well before, so it's like 7 years.
So how does that feel? Like,
this edition feels great. It feels like it just took another step, and maybe next edition there'll actually be money. Sponsors. That's what I need. Sponsors. I need those guys with suitcases of money, because aside from this contemporary art gallery in Perth, Australia, Portal Plus, who gave the documentary prize, most sponsors, you know, it's media or it's nickel and dime.
I'm surprised. Okay, we don't have to talk
but
about
it's
it.
France.
No, but I just even think like anyone, like we had an amazing time. We laughed. You know, some of the films we got, some of the films we didn't. Some of them were like, wow, this is so funny. And just we came this weekend, we had a great time. She loves you, Danielle loves you.
It's nice to be loved.
Yesterday,
I like to be loved.
Yesterday,
that was the opening line in the Cassavetes film, opening night.
Oh, okay.
Gina Rowland's camera rolls. It's like slowly coming up, and it says, "Everybody wants to be loved." And it's so powerful. It's great, but you know, it's nice.
It's hard.
It's better than all the comments you hear on the street, right?
Yes.
Here, which aren't necessarily nice.
No, we loved you yesterday at the.
Darth Vader.
No, when you said, "Is Diego in the house?" Can you say that one more time, please?
Is Diego in the house?
That we were like, yay! That was so cool.
And he wasn't, and I knew he was here, but I hadn't thought that we would have time, because you know it's very strict how everything operates here, and how much time the technicians have a break in between everything. So I was afraid to add on.
Okay, but that film was excellent.
It was fun, no?
That was one of the favorites yesterday.
Because I made them cut out the fashion show part, though, because he sent it in and it had like another 3 minutes of fashion show, and they said, no, it's killing it. Like, just, you know, it's hard for me to tell a director like what he should do, but I said, I'm not going to show it if you keep the fashion show, because it just cuts it. And I know for the film you have to know she's a model, and that she's, so just, I told him the exact frame to cut it. He did it, like where she just comes out, it's the stage and start. And he came up to me yesterday and he said, you know, thank you for doing that. The film is so much stronger now. And it's true, it didn't.
We didn't need to see the fashion show.
No, it kills it. It just takes everything out of it.
Okay.
And it's like Jessica Mitrani, that one had Pieces for Peace. It was 6 minutes and 30 seconds, and I was like, I'd really like this to be in competition, so you've got to lose a minute and a half, or else I can put it out of competition. But to me, it deserves to be in competition.
Okay.
And it worked. Someone else, I said, take out the mirror effect. I hate the mirror effect. It's so gimmicky, and they wouldn't do it. On 2 films, actually. The one with Daphne Guinness, and but he promised next year he's going to submit something. He said there won't be any mirror effect.
Okay.
Because he said Daphne really wanted it. She wanted it to be psychedelic, and I can't take it out.
Today we were sitting behind Claude Montana, Montana, and he was still, like we said, he's still in that Top Gun looking outfit, and it's just like, looking at his film and looking at the golden 80s, some designers aren't like that. Like, we go to fashion shows all the time, and it's just like, it's not the same thing.
No, it's not.
And not that I know what what the 80s fashion show was, but it's even like when I was in Milan last season for Antonio Marata, his show was like a salon.
Yeah.
They sat, I don't know if you were there, but they sat us down to tea and cakes.
Oh, I love
and the
that.
models came,
Don't
like,
you love that?
can we go back to that? Because I'm tired of like, this person's in the front row, this person's not in the front
Me
row.
too. That's why I like films.
So yeah, talk to us. Why do you like films, and why did you start this film festival?
Well, I mean, I've always liked films, actually, but I think, the catwalk show, with a few exceptions, is quite boring in last century, and there are other ways to express fashion through, like, installations, through films. I mean, there's going to be other media as well.
How do you feel? Like you're one of the premier fashion bloggers. How do you feel blogging has changed from then to now?
Well, as for, like, I'm in France, and it's different in New York, because New York accepted it as an accreditation. Paris still doesn't. It's the only city in the universe, You'll have countries as far as New Zealand that are sending you ticket to come and cover on your blog. And Paris, if you're not writing for print, usually I am writing for print also, but they don't accredit blogs. So how's it changed? Well, in Paris, they tried to ignore it even existed, and as in the past couple years, you have all the live streaming, and they have to understand the internet does exist. We have moved on a little bit.
We get it up faster than Vogue.
Well, that's what they don't like, because in the beginning it was like you could have 7 shots just from the front. You weren't allowed to do more. It's against the Chambre Syndicale, this and that. So how has it changed? I guess there's some people, not me really, that are making a hell of a lot of money from their blogs. So that's like Brian Boy or Rumi or, Susie Bubble. And Susie Bubble, it's funny because she said in an interview, and I had no idea, that the reason she started her blog was because of mine. Of course, hers has nothing to do with mine, but it's just the idea. Fashion blogs didn't exist. They existed in politics, economy, and food.
Food,
but they didn't have fashion.
Another question. It was really funny. One of my friends, he's an avid tweeter, he's an avid Instagrammer, and he's a sneaker freak, and he's a street art freak. He snapped a picture of the street artist in New York. He Instagrammed a picture of the street artist creating your street art in New York.
You're kidding, Nick Walker.
Yes. He didn't know who you were. And I was like, oh, that's Diane. He was like, he curses a lot. And he's like, who the fuck is that? That shit is fucking cool. And I was like, that's Diane. He was like, that's cool.
Then I thought, okay, I left New York. I guess I'm really not meant to be in New York. But I'm still up now, because there's one in Chinatown.
So how does it feel to be like a street artist's muse?
I loved it. It's funny because actually I met Nick Walker through another woman that I really love. It's Kelly Catrone.
Of course.
I love strong women, I can also love fragile people, but I like strength, maybe the mix of strength and fragility and sensitivity. And Kelly's like an icon to me, and she contacted me, and she helped me with my very first fashion film festival.
Okay.
Helped me with the PR, got the LA Times. I love her. Kelly called me up and said, there's this great artist, Nick Walker. I really want you to see his work. I think you'll love it. He's in Paris, he's doing something there, and so he was just leaving that day, or the time I could see him. So we met at Toraya, one of my favorite little Japanese tea rooms. And during the course of the conversation, he goes, I'd really like to do, a stencil.
He caught you, Diane, perfectly. Who you are.
It's funny because he lives in Bristol. And so he said, okay, I'm going to fly in one day, in and out the same day, and I want to just take different angles of you. And then I live on the 5th floor with no elevator, so he's like, do you have a tape measure? It's like, I could get it, but he takes off his shoe, and he goes, because I want it to be your size. And it's like, okay, you're 6 feet and a toe. And then he went back to Bristol, and then he tried once to put me up. It didn't work, and then he tried the time your friend saw it.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the one that kissed the?
It's the one in the doorway.
Yeah. No, that's wild.
Shout out to Food Rap for knowing where the street art is.
I love that.
Last question is, what's your sign? What's your
I'm a Libra. I'm a Libra with the moon in Scorpio and a Gemini ascendant. Okay. 5 planets in Libra, actually.
Oh wow, I wish I knew all that.
I'm very Libra.
Okay. So also, if you had something to say to young women today, what advice would you give a young woman?
Just be yourself. Find out who you are, and that's what you should project. Don't try to be somebody else. Don't try and force any issue. Just go with things that feel right. Just judge totally by your gut, and don't think that things are impossible. When you come to Paris, you get you understand how the weight of a culture keeps you down, because if you can't be Mozart or you can't be this or that, you're afraid to try. But the New York style is like, which I love and I've maintained for 22 years in Paris, is just, you want to do it, try it. If it doesn't work, try something else. But do what feels comfortable to yourself and be true to yourself.
So what's your Twitter? What's your Facebook?
The Twitter is just ASVOF. But we just set another one up too for the festival. It's ASVOFF5. And Facebook is a shaded view. I know it's all confusing because I end up having too many Facebooks, and like I have like a personal one which is no longer personal. And don't you die when people come up to you and say, I'm your Facebook friend. If you have 5,000 of them, are you really my friend?
Yeah. That happens a lot. But now it's like for the blog, you need Facebook.
Yeah. And what I find now is when I want to contact someone like, say, Rossi De Palma, who I absolutely love, she's like the godmother of the festival, I love her, is that if I send her an email, it might not get an answer right away, but if I send her direct Twitter, I get the answer instantly.
So we're going to get ready to go see the last round of the film festival, because we're actually rooting for our friend Damien, a young photographer, a street style model photographer that he's in a short film, and I'm really excited about seeing.
I know it, the one about where the girls are.
Yes.
I love that film.
Really?
I laughed so much, and I thought, this film is so great because here you take these 3 guys that are so passionate about fashion and they're so excited that nobody ever thinks about them. They just think, oh God, it's, this, like wasps or something, And I thought, here are these guys that are like, they almost can't breathe. They love it so much. Oh, she looked at me, Or like,
that's Bobby.
I know, that was a riot. Or like the guy that used to be a surgeon.
Mm-hmm.
Is that Damien?
No, Damien is the Asian, the little guy.
Oh, right, yeah. But didn't he say, oh, yeah, I'm like their brother. I take care of them. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I love that film. I watched it a lot.
I really want to see it because they say
it's really fun.
They saw the moment the first time I met Damien. Like, Damien called me on Wednesday on Skype, and he's like, Charlotte, I just want to let you know you're in the movie. And I was like, really? He's like, you signed the release, you're in the movie, and they captured the first time we met each other.
So cool.
Because I stalked him, and Rudy, the guy behind the camera, I stalked them 2 seasons. So, like, I really want to see
You're
it.
A stalker.
But I'm a stalker. I'm an Aries. I'm a stalker.
Oh, you're my opposite, which is great.
Yes.
It's very good.
Thank you so much. Nice to meet you, like, on film and, like, personal. So now that we can say hi, the American Girls in Paris.
Yeah.